Hey, Coach, I'm so excited you found us on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe down below, hit the bell up above. That will take care of everything you need. Also, make sure you go down below and check out teachhoops.com for coaches who want to get better. If you're looking for resources, if you're looking for a one-stop shop, if you're looking for everything that will make you a better basketball coach, you can find it down below at teachhoops.com. Have a great day.
All right, so I'd like to give a big shout out to our two sponsors. First of all, Dr. Dish, the number one shooting machine on the market. I forgot. I think it's like 27 seconds or 18 seconds or 13, something. I can get this thing set up. Anyway, have you seen my new Dr. Dish thing I'm releasing? The all-in thing on Dr. I'll
No,
send it to you. Anyway, I did a whole 5-part series for Dr. Dish. And it's
really?
yeah, so it's kind of cool.
Like, are you going to be on their website or what?
I am on their website. So
No,
anyway,
you're not.
I am. So go over and check
Are
it
you
out.
really?
Yeah, $450 off. Mention me. Maybe you're all in. If you want to be all in, then you're going to join teachhoops.com for coaches who want to get better. The one-stop shop for basketball coaches. Everything you need to become a better basketball coach. Anyway, yes, don't seem so shocked that I'm on their website. All right.
You
Go
should
and
be.
check it out. All right. Welcome to High School Hoops. Coach Stager is freaking out because how many days is it till not like month?
Well, we pre-record these, so we're month
Yeah,
5
month-ish.
weeks.
Yeah, wow.
About 5 weeks.
Are you freaking out?
A little bit, to be honest with you. In a good way. I mean, you forget when you don't do it for a while, you forget all the other things that kind of hinder what you really want to focus on. So, and then the reality is of being a school teacher and a
And a
dad
husband
and
and
a
a husband,
husband and all that, and then your youth stuff. It's a lot.
yeah. It is. I know. I'm agreeing. It's like, so what would make it easier for you before we jump into the topic of starting practice? What would make it easier for you?
Now in my career, or when I was younger.
Either one. Because I
Wow.
personally think, and I haven't told you this though, but I'm starting like a full access, and I'm gonna let people follow me for an entire season, for an entire 12 months of what I do for an
Yeah.
entire 12 months, for two reasons. One, I think peak coaches, it would help younger coaches. You've kind of already been through it once, but even for established ones, first of all, to kind of see how I think the hardest part is you don't know what's coming, like around the next corner. You don't know what's coming. You do now because you've done it, but most coaches, when they kind of start out, don't know. Um, what's coming around. I'm doing it for that reason because I think it will help a lot of coaches, but I'm also doing it because I want to document near the end of my career, kind of, this is what I did for a year.
Right.
Anyway, so I think that might help some young coaches. I don't know, that's just my thought, but what's your thought on that
I
before we
just
jump into
think
the
that
topic?
I think the hardest thing is just ensuring that you got all the things that you want to get in. I don't know how some coaches do it. We
I
all do it, but
100% agree. I think it's not knowing. Yes, making sure you have everything
so
in.
let's just say, you get your schedule and you have a certain amount of days. And I was actually watching something from Teachhoops last night. I was looking at practice planning, and that's why I got intrigued by the topic of how to start practice. And
Good lead
it
in.
was about
Good
it
lead
was
in.
like six it was like 5 or 6 years ago. It's part of your practice planning course. And it was a female. I think she was the coach at UWM, and she talked about practice planning. And she says that high school coaches have it even harder because college coaches, they go for like 30 days before they even have their first game. And for us high school coaches, a lot of us will have 8 to 10 days before they have to be able
Right.
to play a game.
I know.
And I
Got to
think
map
that's
it
the
out.
most exhausting,
Yeah, you
the
got to
most
map it out.
exhausting. And you're like, okay, we got to work on these fundamentals. I was like, and it's just like, there's so much you have to do, you know?
So
And
I've learned. So the topic today is how to start practice. I think early in the season, individual skill work takes a back burn. Um, so that's where the topic of how do you start practice later in the season. I start practice, or I start pre-practice with a lot of individual work.
I
But
love that.
but
This
yeah,
is why we're here, to have these conversations.
yeah.
So, and I
But
guess that puts in perspective
early,
too.
I don't think you have time. I don't have time to spend 20 minutes during practice early to do shooting stuff, to do, maybe some rebound. I don't have as much time. And again, I do it. I just don't have as much time as I have in January and February to do those maintain, skill, improve, because we
Right.
start on, it takes 2 days to pick the team. Then I've got 7 days until my first game. I've got to make sure we got a press break in. I got to make sure we have out of bounds plays in. I got to make sure we got this. I got to make sure we got this. So I just don't have the time. So going back to the topic of how do I start practice, we have actually a pre-practice before practice actually starts, because it's different kids that are in different parts of the building. It's a big building. When can they get there? So all season, before the actual, when I gather them together and we do some discussion, we do some breathing before we actually start practice. Um, that's when I connect. First of all, I make connections at that point. That's in my pre-practice, but I'm also working on, one of my coaches, a couple of my coaches are jumping in, and we're working on specific skill sets. So that kind of stays constant. But once the connection, and here's what we're going to do today, and blah blah blah, and then we jump into whatever we're going to do. I like that. I like that I want it to be intense early in practice. That's kind of one of my things. I don't know.
Yeah. So I would say I was just finishing up my practice schedule, and I added, someone I had coaching girls, boys start the week after, so I can add a little bit extra time and have the gym availability and so forth. And my big focus is getting shots up, getting shots up, getting shots up. Not adding more time for offensive install, but how can I get these shots up and shots up and shots up, finishing, free throws, shooting, blah 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 blah. That's where I and extending my practice, where you're like, oh yeah, how do I get all these other things in? And so that's where my push is. So when I'm going to be starting practice this year, and how do I start practice? I used to start practice with like, some high energy, this or that. I guess my change this year is going to be shooting, some type of partner shooting. It's going to be consistent, and it's going to be, because I'm coming from one building,
Competitive.
kind of, and tracking, and I want him to have the same partner for a week, and then rotate. And it might be designated on what that player is doing. So let's say that I have a player that's more around the perimeter. What they do in that 15 minutes to start practice might look completely different than two perimeters working together. So that's kind of what I'm thinking of when it comes to starting practice this year. In years past, I've usually done like things with like weighted basketballs, things to really get their high energy, high going. But this year, it's also based on your situation of where you are as a coach. So let me explain this to you. So years ago, when I was a varsity coach at the other previous high school I was at, my day ended earlier, and I was in the gym before my kids would come in. Now it's going to be like almost simultaneously, or I might have two coaches kind of starting practice or just opening up the door, and I'm trickling in from my previous building. So what can I do to make it effective, but not too structured where, coming in? So I think part of it, like when you start practice, is based on how you're entering the building. Are you entering the building at the same time? Are you entering the kids almost getting there just a little bit before you do? Or are you coming like a couple minutes after the players are coming in? So I think how you structure that also kind of makes how you start practice too. So I don't know if that makes sense, Steve.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Because I've always had one of my assistants has been in middle school, and he's always been there, but now his schedule changed. So now I'm going to have to, yes, I think that first, how you start your class or your practice changes. And now it's going to be and my other assistant usually was able to open it up, and now he's got a 7th hour, so he can't. So it's going to fall on me, which it hasn't in a long time. But I think that's going to be good, because I'm going to lean into that. I'm going to lean into Because
I would
the
say
issue
it's almost
is,
like a classroom. So like in our school, kids kind of trickle in to start the day, right? They're coming and eat their breakfast, blah blah blah. It's like I'm almost treating my practice coming in almost as a soft start. So they're coming in, they're with their partner, they're doing some shooting, and at like 3:15, we're on it, right? But like everybody's supposed to get there by 3 o'clock, but that 15 minutes is very, self-directed with their partner kind of shooting.
yep. And that's things too. That's why I talk about pre-practice. I tell them, and the faster you get out of seventh hour, the faster you get down and get changed, the faster you get your water bottle filled, the more things I can help you develop, and the more shots you can get up, and the more
Correct.
bulldozing. So that's the first sell. Once everyone's there, and then and I've told you this before, then we meet in the center circle, and we have some breathing exercises and some leaving school behind things. Before we jump into it. And sometimes I think something I've done recently too is that I've let them kind of, especially after we've established kind of our culture, I've let them kind of pick the first drill. It's an interesting little tweak to
So what do you think most, like from a high school boy standpoint, what drill do they tend to pick first?
they
Does it
want
change or
transition. They want to get up and down. They want to
yeah,
sweat. They want to
okay.
go. I tend to like competitive more. I tend to like some small sided, some like I've broken them up into groups for the week or whatever, and then we're just going at it. Um, but also it also will depend. Maybe we're going against one of our rivals. We're right into it and we're working on our offense versus their specific. I mean, sometimes it really depends, I think, on the group, but it also depends on maybe we got a day. It's a Wednesday and we play on Thursday, and we played on Tuesday. So it's like it's it's hard to say that well, it isn't hard to say. It is like a classroom. It is a classroom. And once you've done it, I mean, I can't even imagine how many classes I've taught because it's year 35 of
Right. And
teaching.
I also think it's like in the time of the year. So like I think at some point too, like you just want to get in and get out, right? Maximize your time,
Right.
hour, 15
Effective.
minute, hour and a half, be effective and get out, right?
Well, because
Because
I want to
like
get up
now
to
with
I want to get up to I want to get up to the film room. I want to get up to the life lessons. I want to get up to the team building. I want those I can take 40 minutes. That's easy because it's not physically, it's mentally taking something out of them. But yeah, maybe I'm down to the hour and 20 or whatever it is. Yeah. What's
so
your
I
thought
think
on it?
that changes. I just think it changes throughout the year. But like I just think that for me, it's dependent on what your preference is. And I think I'm just gonna, for me this year in particular, my focus is just coming in and partner shooting and getting shots up right away. And then starting practice, and that's more of a pre-practice thing, and it's consistent. And the players know what's expected of them when they come in. It's a good way to communicate with players and how you do it. So you're in the building every day, so you see your guys a little bit more than I would see my girls every day. So this is an opportunity through that structure too to check in with them, see how things are going, check in with my staff coming in. Again, I think your initial start of practice depends on your situation of what time you're coming into the building, what your proximity is around your players. But I do agree though, like when you really start practice, you want something to get the juices flowing too. So that's
Yeah.
a little bit different.
Right. And I think again, it's going to depend on the specific group. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer, but and again, it depends on the age level, it depends on the intensity, it depends how much they've played together and all that kind of
So
stuff.
when you meet with your guys and start a practice, you circle up, huddle up. How do you get
Nope,
their attention?
they're seated in a circle around the center circle and usually
Seated
seated.
with chairs.
Nope, on the floor.
Interesting.
And then usually it's announcements. Hey, remember we're playing blah blah blah.
Yeah.
We'll do some things. And then we do a minute of meditation and um breathing to kind of leave school behind. So my assistant coach usually runs that because we forget how stressful it is for them. It's really stressful. I mean, they're not, because they're worried about the social part. They're worried about how they fit in. They're worried about where they're going to eat lunch. They're worried about where they're going to go to the bathroom. They're worried about mom getting on them because they didn't do their English. They're worried about, so I want them to just come down. Okay. And then, and when I don't do that, they yell at me because they like that. And then as they're doing it, then I slowly
So
bring
that's
them out.
intriguing too, because I think some people would think that they, you know, that most people or boys in particular, maybe just kids in general would want to rebuttal doing something like that. You feel like the kids are really into that.
They're unplugged. It's crazy. They're not used to quiet. For a minute, it's crazy. They like it. It's like walking in nature. So then, and then I bring them out of that and I say, okay, then, coach slowly brings them out of that. And I go, all right, now we're refocused. Remember, we're playing so-and-so tomorrow. They are going to do bing, bing, bing. We got to focus on that. Let's get a lot of high energy, a lot of touches today. And boom, we're going to go and do what we're going to do. So it's kind of like, I want to close one chapter, which is the stressful school chapter, and I want to open the fun chapter. So I explain what I'm doing early in the season, but it's part of like, because they're still in their school mode when in pre-practice. They're still in their, I want to close that. I want to like, all right, now we're here and this is, let's go. It's helped. Every time I've forgotten to do that, they have not liked it. They want to do that. They want to unplug. They want to, like, they don't have their phones. They're crazy. It's like the longest they go in a day without their phones.
Yeah. Well, think of us as adults. Like we have our phones tied to our hip all the time.
Right. I even have it at practice. So, all right. Anything else on how to start practice, coach?
Well, I think I even learned a little bit. So that was awesome. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. All right. Till next week.
Hey, Coach, so glad you enjoyed the video. Subscribe and like before you leave. And also go over and check out teachhoops.com for coaches who want to get better. It's got everything and a roadmap for you to become a better basketball coach. So go over and check it out. And let's head back to the next video, wherever that would be.